It was a Wednesday. Nothing dramatic. Nothing worth remembering. Until it suddenly was. I came home from work, briefcase in hand, stomach doing jazz hands for dinner. The house smelled like marinara and betrayal, but I only recognized one of those at the time. She stood there at the stove, my wife, Rachel, humming some off-brand pop song and stirring sauce like she didn't have secrets boiling in the same pot. Now, I'm a simple man. I know when something's off. That night, everything was off. The lighting, her posture, the way she smiled without her eyes. I set my case down slowly. "You're in a good mood," I said. She gave a shrug and a wink. "Just trying something new." Something new. Let me pause here for context. Rachel was not the new type. She still ordered the same drink at Starbucks she did in college. The idea that she'd be trying something new voluntarily was as suspicious as a wet dog in a dry room. So I played it cool, ate my pasta, listened to her talk about nothing, smiled like I wasn't noticing that she had 2 wine glasses out but claimed she'd just wanted to double-check the size. Sure, that night, after she was asleep, I did something I hadn't done since I was a teenager with trust issues and a dial-up modem. I checked her phone. Nothing. Not a single message out of place. But here's the thing about liars. The smart ones don't use text. They use silence. They use work late and girls' night, and you're being paranoid. They use just enough normal to keep you second-guessing the abnormal. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Because I knew something she didn't know, I had time. Up next in part 2, the locksmith and the laugh. I'll tell you how I caught her without yelling, without accusing, without even raising my voice. She thought she was 5 steps ahead. She didn't know I already owned the whole chessboard. 3 days later, I called a locksmith. Not because I was planning to change the locks. Yet, but because I needed a second key to a second life. Mine. Installing a discreet camera. I told him casually, gesturing toward the bookshelf in the hallway. "Don't tell my wife. It's a birthday surprise." He winked. "Say no more, boss." And he didn't. Which is why I still tip the man every Christmas. By that weekend, I had a pinhole camera tucked into the spine of Great Expectations, which was poetic, considering my own were being dramatically lowered. Now, let me explain something. I didn't want to catch her. No sane man wants his worst suspicions confirmed. I wanted to be wrong. I wanted to find out she was secretly taking flamenco lessons or plotting a surprise vacation. I would have settled for her joining a cult, as long as it didn't involve kissing. But the universe has a twisted sense of humor. Thursday afternoon. I was still at work. Camera footage pinged my phone. I opened the app like it was Pandora's box. And there it was. Rachel. Laughing. Giddy. Wearing a tank top that I hadn't seen since our honeymoon phase and never again during tax season. She wasn't alone. The man was tall. Wore boat shoes inside. Red flag. I didn't recognize him, but the way she threw her arms around him said they were not meeting to discuss philosophy. Then, right as she passed the camera, I heard it. "Don't worry," she said, laughing as she led him toward the kitchen. "He still thinks I'm gluten-free." I blinked. Gluten-free. Let me be very clear. I gave up pizza for this woman. Breadsticks. Lasagna. I've walked out of restaurants like a medieval pilgrim because of her fake wheat allergy. And now she's tossing linguine with Casanova like it's Tuesday on the Food Network? Oh, the rage was real. But I didn't throw anything. I didn't storm home. I saved the footage, made popcorn, and watched the rest like it was a particularly dark comedy pilot. See, this is where the one step ahead part begins. Because I wasn't going to scream, or cry, or beg her to choose me. No, I was going to choose something better. Revenge. But not yet. Timing, like pasta, is everything. So what do you do when you catch your wife lying, cheating, and carb loading with a stranger in your house? You breadcrumb her. Slowly. Deliberately. Make her feel like she's still in control while you rearrange the entire chessboard behind her back. The next morning, I made her pancakes. "Oh wow," she said, suspicious. "You're cooking?" I smiled. Figured we could try being spontaneous. She blinked. "You never want pancakes." "I'm trying something new." And oh, the irony was delicious. Over the next few days, I started playing the fool, nodding at her excuses, letting her girls' nights go uninterrupted, asking innocent questions like, "Hey, did you ever find that blue shirt of mine? The one you said you donated? Weird, I can't find it anywhere." Or, "Babe, did the credit card charge at Trattoria Milano go through? I thought you said you were at Megan's for takeout." Each time she'd fumble the answer, fake a smile, kiss my cheek a little too quickly. She thought I was catching on, but just barely. Exactly where I wanted her. Meanwhile, I started working late too. Except I wasn't working. I was building a dossier. Screenshots. GPS pings from the app she didn't know I had access to. Her location history was like a breadcrumb trail to deceit. Tuesday, she said she was at the gym. Her GPS said she was at a hotel 5 miles east. Room 219. Guess who else checked in? Our pasta-loving friend from the other night. She came home that evening in spandex, hair damp, like she'd been training. And technically, she had been. Just not cardio in the way she told me. I set my phone down gently on the table and said, "Tired?" "Exhausted," she sighed. "I did a double session today." I nodded. "You deserve a break." She smiled, kissed my cheek, and said, "You're being really sweet lately." "You think so?" I said, turning back to my laptop. "I guess I'm just evolving." She laughed and walked away. She didn't notice that the email I was drafting said, "Notice of property transfer, confidential." Because while she was sneaking around motels, I was transferring the house deed into a trust she had no access to. Let me set the stage. Rachel's birthday was coming up. 36 years old, still lying like a high schooler with gum in her hair. She mentioned wanting something low-key, which, in her vocabulary, translates to lavish, curated, and Instagrammable, but with plausible deniability. I told her I'd handle it. "Just trust me," I said one morning over coffee. She was halfway through texting under the table, barely looked up. "You? Really?" "Absolutely." She smirked. "Wow. Guess I should be worried." I grinned right back. "Probably." She thought it was a joke. It wasn't. Now, I didn't plan to crash her party with confetti and a megaphone. That's TV stuff. Real power? It's quiet. It slips in through the back door and locks it on the way out. Here's what I did. First, I rented out a cozy little Italian restaurant, her favorite. Candlelight, piano in the corner, the kind of place that charges you $18 for 4 ravioli and a memory. I reserved the back patio. Made sure everything felt just intimate enough to lull her into a sense of safety. I told her it'd just be a few close friends. She smiled. "No big surprises, okay?" "No," I said, sipping my coffee. "Nothing big." Now, I don't like lying. But sometimes you have to speak fluent hypocrisy to a native speaker. The guest list? That's where the artistry came in. Half of it was hers, people she knew I'd invite. Her work friend Michelle, her sister Laura, our mutual friends from way back, when we actually had mutual interests. The other half? Well, that was mine. Including Chase, the man from the camera footage. Megan, the imaginary alibi friend. A hotel clerk named Shannon who didn't know she was part of this until I offered her a paid evening and plausible deniability. And my personal favorite, Rachel's boss, who, by my calculation, was unaware she'd been calling out sick to spend company time in hotel rooms with linguini breath. All invited. None of them told who else was coming. I staggered the arrival times just right. Kept the seating tight. And I set up a single centerpiece, a video screen and a very short film. She walked into that patio dressed like betrayal in silk heels. Kissed me on the cheek like she hadn't erased entire chapters of our marriage between double texts and disappearing gym bags. The table clapped. She curtsied. I pulled her chair out like the gentleman I am. "You look beautiful," I said. She beamed. "This is perfect." "Oh, Rachel, you have no idea." We got through salad and wine before it began to crumble. It started with Megan arriving alone. "Hey," she said, giving Rachel a tight hug. "So glad I could make it." Rachel looked like she'd seen a ghost. Because Megan, see, was supposedly out of town that weekend. Rachel had told me so herself. Twice. "Wait, weren't you at?" she stammered. Megan blinked. "No? You texted me the invite on Wednesday. I figured you knew I'd be around." Cue the first drop of sweat. Then came Chase. This time, Rachel actually flinched. I watched her face in real time. Surprise, panic, calculation. Chase played it cool. He didn't sit down. Just nodded politely and said, "Didn't think I'd make the list. But hey, you said you wanted bold." He turned to me. "Logan, great to see you again." I shook his hand like a man welcoming a rat into a snake exhibit. The real magic happened at the main course. Everyone was settled. The wine was flowing. Tension was mounting like a kettle left on the burner. That's when I stood up, clinked my glass with a fork. "Hey folks," I said. "I just want to say a few words. You know, about love, loyalty, and what it means to share your life with someone." Rachel was frozen. She knew something was coming. She just didn't know what shape it would take. I gestured toward the video screen, and the lights dimmed slightly. Over the last few months, I continued, I've had some time to reflect, and I realized sometimes the best way to honor someone's truth is to show it. Then I pressed play. The video wasn't dramatic. No music, no voiceover, just footage. Silent, raw, clips from the hidden camera, Rachel laughing, kissing, lying. A date stamp, a door closing, then screenshots, GPS logs, the hotel receipt, and finally, a time lapse of her sitting in our kitchen, smiling at me, oblivious. It ended with a quote. The worst part of betrayal is it never comes from your enemies. The silence that followed could have chilled soup. Chase had gone pale. Megan was blinking rapidly. Rachel just sat there, staring, mouth slightly open like her brain had tripped on its own shoelace. I didn't scream, didn't cry. I just picked up my wine glass, took a sip, and said, "Happy birthday, sweetheart." She didn't move. No one did. "Don't worry," I added. "There's dessert." Oh, and there was. I handed out little envelopes, gift bags, really. Inside each one, copies of the divorce papers I'd filed that morning. Notarized, clean, strategically time-stamped to show she'd been served without knowing. One for Rachel, one for her boss, just a courtesy, of course, and one for Chase. His had a little bonus, an NDA and a cease and desist letter. I wasn't going to ruin them. No, I was going to own them. Legally, quietly, completely. Rachel finally spoke. You planned all this." I smiled. "You planned the lies. I just organized the finale." The restaurant emptied slowly, not with a bang, but with a series of awkward chair scrapes and half-mumbled excuses. Megan left first, giving me the kind of sheepish nod people reserve for funerals and car crashes. Rachel's boss followed, phone already glued to his ear, probably calling HR or legal or someone higher up the chain of corporate command who could explain how to file. I just realized my employee's been screwing up in every imaginable way paperwork. And Chase? Chase lingered. I think he wanted to speak. Maybe defend himself. Maybe punch me. Maybe try some dramatic declaration of love for the woman who had just watched her whole life go up in candlelit smoke. But I didn't give him the stage. "You can leave, Chase," I said, still seated, swirling the last sip of wine. "The show's over. No encores." He nodded once, then walked out, his boat shoes flapping against the tile like applause from an empty auditorium. And then, there were two. Rachel sat across from me, still stunned. Her fork rested on the edge of her untouched dessert, chocolate lava cake, because of course betrayal loves dramatic symbolism. I can explain," she said finally. I actually laughed. Not bitter, not mocking, just tired. "You think there's a version of this story that makes you the victim?" "No. Her voice cracked. "You ambushed me. You ambushed yourself," I said, leaning back. "I just handed you a microphone." She dropped her head into her hands. "You've been planning this?" "For about 2 months," I said. "Give or take." She looked up, her mascara smudged, her eyes wide with something between fear and disbelief. "You're not who I thought you were." I smiled. Finally, something we agree on. When we got home that night, she tried to follow me upstairs. "I'll sleep on the couch," she whispered. "I know you need space." I paused halfway up the stairs, turned to face her. "No, Rachel. You need space. Preferably 500 feet of it. The temporary restraining order is part of the papers." Her jaw dropped. "You're kidding." "I'm not. You can pack a bag. Your sister's expecting you." "You called Laura?" She offered. I didn't ask. Turns out, I'm not the only one tired of your lies. Rachel sank down on the bottom step, like she was the one who had just been blindsided. You really want me gone?" I stared at her. Really stared. Here's the thing about betrayal. Once the curtain lifts, everything looks different. The house isn't a home. The couch is just a cushion, and the person you married starts to feel like a stranger in familiar skin. "Rachel," I said, voice steady, "you've been gone. I'm just catching up." The next day, the internet caught up too. Someone, probably Shannon the hotel clerk, posted a blurry photo from the restaurant. The video screen in the background, Rachel's stunned face, me standing at the head of the table like a man giving a TED talk on poetic justice. I didn't leak it. I didn't need to. Karma did all the heavy lifting. Friends started calling, some to apologize, some to confess they had a feeling. One even offered to slash some tires, which, While sweet in a murdery kind of way, I politely declined. My favorite call came from Rachel's cousin Emily, who had never liked me. Always thought I was too calm. She left a voicemail at 2 a.m. Okay, I was wrong about you. That was incredible and terrifying. I think I might be afraid of you now. I saved the voicemail. It made me smile every time. 2 days later, I met with my lawyer. I've never seen paperwork this thorough, she said, flipping through the folder like it was a limited edition collector's item. You did your own discovery? Let's just say I had help, I replied. Do you want to go for the house, the car, or full custody of the dog? All of the above. She raised an eyebrow. You're playing hardball. No, I said. I'm just playing the long game. Rachel tried calling that night. First it was sobbing voicemails, then angry texts, then voice notes full of apologies dipped in manipulation. You didn't have to humiliate me. This isn't how adults handle things. You're ruining my life. I sent one text back. You did that all by yourself. I just turned on the lights. By the end of the week, Rachel had moved in with Laura. Temporarily. I say temporarily because Rachel still believed, deep down, that people eventually forgive beautiful liars. She thought if she just looked sorry enough, someone would fold. Not this time. She showed up at my work once. Hair done. Makeup perfect. That fake humility tucked behind designer sunglasses. I just want to talk, she said, holding a coffee I didn't ask for. You want to talk? I said, not looking up from my computer. You can talk to my attorney. You want to apologize? Leave a voicemail. I don't check them. She blinked. You're really not going to give me a second chance? No, Rachel. You had a second chance when I made pancakes. She didn't get it. And that was the problem all along. So here we are. She's out. The house is mine. Chase. Fired. Her reputation? Fractured. And me? I'm good. Not happy. Not healed. Not yet. But good. Because I didn't lose my temper. I didn't lose my dignity. I didn't become the bitter ex who shouts into the void and sends drunk texts at midnight. I became the man she never expected. The one who smiled while setting the stage. The one who never yelled, but always knew. The one who let her walk right into her own downfall wearing heels and a smirk. 3 weeks. That's how long it took before the fallout stopped feeling like an explosion and started feeling like background noise. The house was quiet again. Peaceful. No more mysterious perfume in the hallway. No more suspicious gym bags or fake girls' nights that smelled like deceit and high-end cologne. Just me, the dog, and a silence that, for once, didn't feel lonely. Then came the reunion. It started with a knock. Not a metaphorical one. A literal knock on the front door at 9:42 p.m. on a Thursday. I was halfway through a documentary and halfway through a bowl of popcorn when I opened it. And there she was. Rachel. Hair tied up like she was trying not to look like herself. No makeup. Hoodie 3 sizes too big. No luxury purse. No fake smile. Just a tired woman standing in the shadow of the life she'd burned down. Hey, she said softly. I didn't move. Didn't say a word. Just looked at her. She sighed. I know you're not exactly excited to see me. You showing up unannounced, again, tells me you think this is still your house, I said flatly. It's not. She nodded. I know. I needed to see you. I leaned against the doorframe. Why? She looked away. I don't know. Closure. Clarity. I've been in therapy. I raised an eyebrow. That's step 2. Step 1 was not wrecking everything you claim to love. She winced, but I didn't flinch. I wasn't here to cushion the consequences. I didn't come here to fight, she said quietly. No, Rachel. You came here because the people you chose didn't stick around. That one landed. Her lips parted, but she didn't deny it. Apparently, Chase's idea of a long-term plan didn't extend beyond hotel rooms and stolen weekends. The minute the drama spilled into the daylight, he bolted. Her sister Laura, who took her in after the birthday massacre, kicked her out 2 weeks later after she caught her lying about where she'd been. I thought maybe we could talk, she whispered. I don't even know who I am anymore. Well, I said, you're standing in front of the man you cheated on, lied to, humiliated publicly, and now want what? Comfort? Redemption? She blinked. I want to be honest. Now that made me laugh. You want honesty? Okay. You were selfish. You were reckless. And you only started looking inward when everything else collapsed. You want a standing ovation for crawling back. She wrapped her arms around herself, shrinking. I didn't expect forgiveness. I just miss who we were. I took a step forward, lowering my voice. We didn't end because of one mistake, Rachel. We ended because I built a home while you were drawing escape routes. Her eyes filled, but I didn't soften. You want to talk? Fine. Let's talk. I opened the door wider and gestured to the couch. Not because I was feeling generous, but because I wanted her to hear the truth in the same place she told so many lies. She sat down slowly, like the weight of it all had finally started crushing her. I stayed standing. I lied to myself, she admitted. I told myself you'd always be there, that I could act out, and you'd keep being the safe place. You confused patience with passivity, I replied. You thought because I didn't yell, I didn't notice. Because I forgave small things, I'd ignore the big ones. She nodded, shame heavy in her posture. You were always steady. I took that for granted. No, Rachel. You used it. You weaponized it. We sat in silence for a long moment. Her eyes wandered to the framed photo still on the bookshelf, one from a trip to Colorado years ago. She smiled in it. I looked tired. I still love you, she said suddenly. I didn't respond, because I didn't know what she meant by love. Nostalgia? Guilt? Fear? I finally spoke. Rachel, I loved you like a lighthouse loves the sea. Steady, no matter how rough the waves. But eventually, even lighthouses erode when the storms don't stop. She covered her mouth, like the metaphor physically hurt. Do you hate me? She asked. No, I said honestly. I don't hate you. I just don't trust you. And without trust, love's just a pretty lie. She swallowed. Is there any way back? That question lingered like smoke. I thought about the nights I stayed up wondering what I did wrong. The mornings I made coffee for someone who'd already checked out. The therapy sessions. The patience. The way I buried my instincts just to give her the benefit of the doubt. And I thought about how peaceful the house had been lately. I looked her in the eye and said, there's no way back. Only forward. And my path doesn't include you anymore. Her tears came quiet. No sobs. Just a slow breakdown from a woman who had finally run out of exits. I deserve that, she said. Yes, I agreed. You do. She stood, walked slowly to the door, then turned. I hope you find someone who sees what I didn't. I already did, I said. Me. She left without another word. And I sat there for a while, staring at that photo on the shelf. Then I got up, took it down, and replaced it with something better, an empty frame. A reminder that sometimes you don't need to fill the space right away. You just need to clear it. After Rachel left, the silence felt different. Before, it was heavy, accusing. It clung to the walls like smoke. But now, it was clean, crisp. It had space. I filled that space with things she used to roll her eyes at. A punching bag in the garage. A record player instead of that soulless Bluetooth speaker. I cooked with butter again. Real butter. None of that olive oil fake dairy substitute she swore was just as good. It wasn't. I started saying yes to things I used to say no to. Happy hours. Pick up basketball. I joined a local hiking group. The first time I showed up, someone asked if I was new in town. I laughed and said no. I've just finally shown up. That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't kill you. It introduces you to the version of yourself you never knew you were allowed to be. One day, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. I opened it slowly. 3 pages. It was from Rachel. She wrote about regret. About therapy. About how she'd learned to take responsibility. She apologized without making excuses. She said she understood now why I handled things the way I did. That I hadn't been cold, just resolved. She ended it like this. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, and I won't ask for it. I just wanted you to know. I see it now. Everything you were. Everything I destroyed. And I hope one day, someone gives you what I threw away. I folded the letter neatly and slid it into a drawer. I didn't need a bonfire. I didn't need closure. She needed to write it. That was for her, not me. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel bitter. I felt done. About 6 months later, I ran into Chase. Of all places, at a gas station. I almost didn't recognize him. The guy looked like someone hit deflate on a Jim Bro action figure. Greasy hair, oversized hoodie, and the kind of dead-eyed stare you only get from burning every bridge you ever danced across. He saw me, froze, then gave a pathetic nod. Logan. I gave him a polite smile. Chase. He looked like he wanted to say something profound. Instead, he just muttered, she told me you'd destroy me. I didn't think you'd do it without touching me. I leaned in slightly. That's the trick, I said. I didn't destroy you. I just stopped protecting you from yourself. He looked away, embarrassed. Pumped his gas in silence. And me? I drove away laughing. Not the bitter kind, the real kind. A year to the day after the birthday dinner, I hosted another gathering. Same restaurant, same table. But this time, it wasn't for Rachel. It was for me. Friends, family, co-workers, people who showed up through the storm. People who stood by me when everything I thought was solid turned to sand. We laughed. We toasted. No tension, no secrets. Just warmth. At the end of the meal, someone asked if I'd ever heard from Rachel again. I raised my glass and said, "She sent me a letter." They leaned in. And, and I filed it under what I needed to hear a year too late. They laughed. I laughed. And then I stood up, tapped my glass, and said, "You know, people always talk about closure like it's something you get from the person who hurt you. But here's the truth. Closure isn't a gift. It's a decision. And tonight, I decided I'm not just healed. I'm grateful." I paused, smiled. Because if she hadn't broken me, I never would have built this.